Hello and welcome to Shaking and Sipping. This is the show where we shake a cocktail or other mixed drink, sip it, and talk about it a little bit. We're continuing our project to go through the IBA's list of official cocktails, currently in the Unforgettables section, and this week we are on the Aviation. Now, this is going to be a pretty quick and simple episode because we're not going to be doing a ton of variants, and the IBA actually gets the history pretty accurate as far as I can tell. So with no further ado, let's just dive right in. So the Aviation is a drink from quite a while ago. So the earliest that most people know of it is from our old friend from episode 1, Hugo Insulin. In his 1916 book about mixed drinks, he gives the recipe for this that is generally seen as the earliest. However, David Wondrich has since apparently found reference to it in 1911, which the IBA mentions, so kudos to the IBA for reading David Wondrich on this one. I haven't seen that actual article that he found, but apparently it's in there. So it goes back at least that far. However, the common version of the drink that was made for most of the 20th century is from our other old friend from last episode, Harry Craddock's 1930 Savoy cocktail book. And the reason why that's important is one ingredient in this drink was a little bit scarce for quite a while. So the main drink itself is basically a variant of a gin sour. So it's gin, and for the Aviation, we're going to be using Aviation. It's lemon. Then it is slightly sweetened with maraschino. The original also calls for creme de violette, so a violet liqueur. That ingredient was very hard to find for most of the 20th century, so therefore it is not in the Savoy cocktail book's version of the drink. So that's how it was made for a long time until I believe in 2007. A company finally started importing a creme de violette, not this one, back into the U.S. House Alpines in Minnesota started importing it again. And since then, it's now available from a number of sources. Giffard, Driod, I can't think of the one that House Alpines brings in, but there's a whole variety of them available now. So we're going to make it both the IBA spec way as well as the 30s Savoy cocktail manual way and see how that goes. So let's go ahead and make the first one. Alright, so first we're going to need our gin. We're using the Aviation both because the name makes sense and because it's a good gin choice for this drink. It is a little bit more botanical than a London Dry, not quite as aggressively junipery, but still somewhat junipery. It's not totally from left field either. So we have 45 milliliters of that, or 1.5 ounces. And then we're going to need some lemon. I really built this quite out of order, I guess, but that's okay. And this lemon is massive. I don't even know that this is gonna... Oh yeah, we'll get there. We need 1/2 ounce of the lemon juice. Man, this lemon does not fit in here. Wow. Okay. We need 1/2 ounce of maraschino liqueur. I guess just maraschino. I don't really say liqueur. And then we need 1 bar spoon of creme de violette. It's such a weird smell. All right. And then that is gonna get shaken. So we've got our 1 big ice cube, a couple small ice cubes. Let's shake it. And then we're gonna strain that into an ideally chilled coupe. And there is none of that blue color coming through. I mean, it is very slightly off blue, but it is not very blue. So we'll work on that in a moment. First, we're going to add our garnish, which is going to be 1 cocktail cherry. And I always always like to have a little bit of juice going as well. That actually helps the color quite a bit, and it is getting a little bit of a purple thing with the red and blue mix. So that's fun. All right, this is the IBA spec Aviation. That is fantastic. Really mellows the gin out. Not that Aviation is incredibly strong to begin with, but this is why you don't want like a London Dry that's really just harsh and junipery, because that would still poke through a little too much here. Here, the gin is just providing our base, and the mixture of the sweetness of the maraschino with just a hint of the herbal notes off of the creme de violette, which if you haven't had, it is kind of floral, because it's a flower, but it's those sort of floral, soft herb flavors. Yeah, that's really what comes through, and it's shockingly sweet. The maraschino and lemon together, really adding a ton of sweetness. I saw several recipes online cut back the maraschino, and I wouldn't, because I like it slightly sweet without having any sugar added, just sort of natural spirit sweetness. But I can see why someone might find it a bit too much. Now, one thing I do want to test really quick here is if we wanted to get it closer to the blue color you see on the IBA site, and we added some more creme de violette, would it be too much to the flavor? I just don't think we're going to get that blue color. I'm guessing it's a matter of this particular creme de violette just does not blue very much, because I've now got 2.5 bar spoons in, and it's pinkish, it's purplish, but that's half the maraschino. Cherry, not the maraschino liqueur. No, it doesn't overpower it. That's actually kind of nice. I actually like a little more creme de violette in there. I think, yeah, I support that. So official recipe swap, 2 bar spoons, or even a little more. That's fantastic. All right, and then let's make up the Harry Craddock 1930 Savoy cocktail book version, wherein he called for 2/3 gin, 1/3 lemon, and then 2 dashes of maraschino, which dash is always a bit of a what does that mean ingredient, because different bartenders in different time periods meant different things. In this case, the original recipe, the 1916 Enslin recipe, it called for 2 dashes of the creme de violet. So assuming that's the same idea, we will go with a bar spoon's worth of maraschino in the Savoy version. I'm gonna dump this shaker and be right back. All right, let's mix up the Savoy version. So since we want 2/3 to 1/3, I'm gonna go ahead and go with 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of our gin. And then we want 1/3 to be lemon, so we want 1/2 ounce again of lemon juice. Okay. That's really just too big of a lemon. Grand. And then we want 1 bar spoon of the maraschino. That was a little more than a bar spoon, but still far less than the 1/2 ounce we had in the first version. And that's it. Let's grab some ice and shake it. Alright, and we strain that into, again, an ideally chilled coupe. Yeah, so there definitely is a difference. Obviously now I've added all of the cherry juice and the creme de violette to the original, so we can't really do a proper side-by-side here. But I can definitely tell it was bluer at first when I shook it before I added the cherry and the additional creme de violette. So it's doing something. I think that the pigment in this creme de violette is not as potent as it is in some. So let me know if you make this with one of the several other creme de violettes out there, if you use the same proportion and if you get more color. So let's try this version, again garnished with a cherry, little bit different ratio and no creme de violette. Yeah, it's not as good. I'd like a hair more maraschino. Even though it's a lower amount of gin, it still feels like I'm not getting as much sweetness from the maraschino. And I'm not getting anything that the creme de violette was bringing. So this is just a gin sour, but with nothing going on in it. If anything, I'd maybe cut back on the lemon juice a little bit or use a more assertive gin in this, because it's kind of lemon juicy. Yeah, the nose is lemon juice. It's lemon juice with a hair of gin character to it. So that one's kind of disappointing. Much better with the creme de violette. Much better with the more gin and more maraschino in the current IBA version. So for this one, I'm going to conclusively say out of the two versions I tried here today, the IBA version is the superior one. Though I would bump up the creme de violette a little bit, or perhaps other creme de violettes out there kick a little bit harder. Either way, thanks for coming along with me on that adventure. If you'd please do all the classic YouTube things like liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, ringing the bell, going on a YouTube hole and clicking tons of related videos until you don't know how you got there anymore. Any of those things are appreciated. Also, please visit the blog linked below, shakingendsipping.com, where you'll see more of a write-up on this drink with close-up photos. You'll also see what happens when I order this drink out and about at a cocktail bar later this week. Do they follow the same recipe? Do they make any twists? Who knows, but it'll be on the blog. Also follow along on Twitter at shaking_sipping, where you'll see updates when new videos are coming, new blog posts are coming, other things that may be happening in my or cocktail world. Thanks, and until next week, cheers.